Welcome to the podcast Change Leaders, sponsored by the Jack Joseph and Morden Mandel School of Applied Social Sciences. Our guest this week is Susan Sternad Basel, the former Deputy Chief Data Officer of the United States Defense Intelligence Agency. She earned her master's degree from the Mandel School in 1981 and has achieved many distinctions and honors throughout her varied and distinguished career path. Her career journey from social work to the armed forces is notable. A devoted volunteer, Susan received the 2021 Mandel School Distinguished Service Award. Susan recently shared a conversation with Dexter Fwazin, Dean of the Mandel School.
Susan, you're in the lobby of a 30-floor building on a ride to the top floor. Tell us, who is Susan Basel and aspects of your identity that are important to you in 30 seconds.
Wow, 30 seconds. Okay. The first thing is work. I am very proud of the trajectory that my social work career has taken, and I've worked very hard to orchestrate that. I love to work, and I was very fortunate to have the kinds of experiences that have brought me to who I am today. The second thing is about people. I just get a lot of joy about connecting with people. I like to hang with people who are deep thinkers and doers. I like to get beyond conversation and get things done, which kind of leads me to my next point. When I'm in a group of people and we have something to do, I usually emerge as the leader. My philosophy is that the world is run by those who show up. The third thing is that now I'm in give back mode. I just joined a group of providers and providing services to veterans and families. But I'm also enjoying being a mentor for graduate students at the Mandel School. I look forward to every meeting that I have with them. I really believe in walking the talk. I espouse a lot of the foundations of social work. And that includes things like being adaptable, going with the flow, working outside of my comfort zone to enhance my own growth. But I really believe in being a good listener and providing feedback. I think that's a really excellent gift. The other thing is I believe in accepting people as they are without judgment. I like to have a non-judgmental lens when I'm approaching people and situations as well as careers. I wouldn't present a limit on options to my clients, so I figure, why should I put those kind of limits on myself? And I try to teach that to my mentees, to stay open to any number of opportunities that might present.
I like that a lot, what you said, stay open. So Susan, you're dropping so many pearls of wisdom here. You said, being open to difference, because in many ways it's like taking a vacation and staying right at home. And that you're attracted to doers and to thinkers. So Susan, very often, you don't know this is the first time I'm sharing this with you, but when I talk a lot about social work leaders in non-traditional spaces, very often I reference your illustrious career in the intelligence community. What are some of the misconceptions that people have about social work and their career paths? And I'd love for you to share a little bit about your career path.
Wow, where do I start? First, I think that we need to look at social work with regard to social stratification. That's the ranking of professions and essentially what their typical salaries are. And what I find is that the professions that are the most essential to human life are those that are the least paid. But that includes police officers, first responders, firefighters, social workers, nurses, caregiving professionals, and the like. And the people who are making the highest salaries are mostly entertainers, movie stars, sports figures, etc. And oftentimes I see that even in the 21st century, that positions that are traditionally held by women are oftentimes the lowest paid.
Yes, absolutely. Underpaid. Way too much.
The other key point is that social workers tend to be put in a box. They oftentimes get stereotyped, especially if they're limited in what they do or they're limited in just doing social work jobs only.
But you stepped out of the box. And I tell folks that social workers are like American Express. Everywhere you want to be, you can find a social work. So tell us about your career path.
I went from a traditional social work role to building coalitions globally with the 18 intelligence agencies, working on developing IT systems and data management systems to build intelligence, be able to share intelligence in real time, and using the latest and greatest in data science to build algorithms to get that intelligence to the warfighter in real time. That was an amazing trajectory for me. And of course, there's a lot of steps in between from that point. But the key thing was that I kept open to understanding what I needed to do to translate my skills to that dream job that I wanted and not limiting myself. I knew I wanted to add value to that organization. And I realized very quickly in my career after being in community services that I really wanted to do things that are much broader scale and I could impact people much more fluidly and globally if I moved into more of a macro systems type space. And so I did that. When I moved into federal government, my first job working with the Coast Guard for 10 years was just so empowering. I was able to develop programs, to develop policy that directly impacted Coast Guard families and members in real time. They're just an awesome organization. When I moved into the intelligence world, Defense Intelligence Agency, I had the opportunity to continue to grow in positions of greater authority. When I got promoted into the senior ranks, it was expected for me to change jobs every couple of years. So it really helped to round me out as a professional, but put me in spaces that I never anticipated.
So how did that come about, Susan, moving from the Coast Guard to intelligence? Did the job find you or did you find the job?
From the Coast Guard to Defense Intelligence Agency, I found the job. And actually, one of my coworkers, I was actually on assignment in Puerto Rico doing some critical incident stress debriefing with their drug interdiction team and doing programs down in the San Juan area. She sent me a position description for a position as Chief of Plans and Programs at Defense Intelligence Agency. And she said, this just has you written all over it. Developing policy and programs, I mean, that's something that really gets me up in the morning. I love doing that kind of thing. I interviewed for it. I translated my skills to that. They selected me hands down. They said that I was exactly the person they were
Wow.
looking for. That was an amazing transition in my career.
So tell me, for listeners and particularly for new social workers and social work students, what were one or two of the skills that you translated during that interview?
Well, that's a really good question. And actually, I was going to talk to you a little bit about when you asked me about misconceptions, because, even though social workers get stereotyped so much, the reality is that social workers evolved and is rapidly emerging as an essential profession with such multifaceted skill sets that can be translated to a multitude of jobs. And people just don't realize that because, even in movies, social workers are portrayed as this crabby person that
Right.
that takes children away, and that's so 19th century.
Yes.
It's just not even
That's
funny.
that's really
The fact is that social workers are trained in numerous complex skills like critical thinking, research, theory and methods, macro systems, microsystems, strategic planning, communications, organizational dynamics, community policy and practice, data science, management analysis. Those are just a few skill
Yes.
areas that come to mind.
Yeah, social workers are all over the place at
And they're
every
working in
system level.
They're working in so many different kinds of organizations. They're often leading important efforts in the community and government, the judicial system, hospitals, military, intelligence, think tanks, private practice, and nonprofits. They're just all over. And so the sky is the limit. In fact, in today's society, I think that social workers are key to unlocking and addressing the problems and instability in today's socio-political climate. I think that they're going to be very instrumental in bringing unification to our society.
And I think more and more professions are recognizing that. So it's clear that the Mandel School was a big part in your journey and your trajectory as a professional. So how did you come about to choose the Mandel School? I'm sure there were other choices in front of you. Give us the backstory around why you chose the Mandel School.
Well, I had a mentor in undergraduate that knew that I wanted to help people and was very interested in either providing counseling or community work, etc. So she recommended that I look into the Mandel School, and the rest is history.
Wow.
I just fell in love with the whole process of it. The Mandel School is evolving social work into the 21st century. And I mean, right now, I feel that to me, they're number one in the country because they're creating extraordinary leaders. I see that every day in the mentees that I have. They are just awesome, and they are just movers and shakers. And also, Mandel School is a leader in efforts to create these dual degree programs that I think are creating a much more complex space for social workers to move into more non-traditional roles in law, public health, and data science. I mean, that's really where that trajectory needs to go. And also the faculty. I mean, I just am so impressed with the kinds of research that they do. They're doing very cutting edge research. And to me, doing the adaptation of programs in the community are making a huge difference. And people see that.
Yeah, and I say, remind folks time and time again that the Mandel School, we had the first evidence-based curriculum that was recognized by the Council on Social Work Education. And again, we have a dynamic curriculum that's preparing students for the 21st century. So you've had a long and illustrious career that's atypical for many social workers. You've worked outside the usual uh, boundaries of social work. Susan, you have burst the box wide open. Boundaries have not been able to hold you in terms of careers that you've moved yourself into. You've talked a little bit about social work shows up in many different spaces. Tell me one or two other lessons you've learned looking at your career, some other lessons that are important for social workers to understand.
I think one of the biggest takeaways that I've experienced is the fact that you have to put the time up front to research the company or organization that you're looking to move into, to know everything you possibly can. And then when you're applying and interviewing, to translate your skills so you show value in what you offer to that particular organization. That is really how it worked for me. I knew them. They knew that I had taken the time to do that, and that's impressive in and of itself to most employers. Also, I wanted them to see exactly what added value that I would present to them and how I would help to develop their vision and mission in very tangible ways. The other thing I take away is understanding that it's really important to network. Networking is key to opening doors and getting your foot in doors
Hmm.
and getting jobs. You can network through mentors. Mentors are essential. I think that if you're looking at understanding yourself, where your blind spots are,
Hmm.
I always advise my mentees to find somebody who's standing in the shoes that you want to be standing
Hmm.
in 3 to 5 or 10 years, but also look for somebody who's really different from you because they're going to point out some blind spots for
Yes.
you. In my experience, when somebody is really different and sometimes even rubbing me the wrong way,
Hmm.
it's really more a reflection of me than it is the other person. And there's a lot of learning to be had from that
I totally
space.
agree. Yes.
So, networking, using your mentors to build your network. And also, one of the other things that really stands out for me is to be kind and fair to everyone that you work with, and even outside of that workspace, because you never know who your next boss will be.
Wow. Wow. Those are pearls of wisdom. Do your homework, translate the skills, and align them with the agency mission and function and goals. Be kind. When people rub you the wrong way, sometimes you have the best learning opportunities from those difficult circumstances. So great, great pearls of wisdom for our student learners. And it's no wonder that you've come full circle in terms of investing so much in mentoring. You are really walking the walk, Susan. So this is a full circle moment. You mentioned that you tend to get pushed into leadership roles. And I don't somehow I don't think that's accidental. Folks are recognizing your many leadership qualities. How would you describe your leadership qualities?
I think that the most important thing that I have learned as a leader is to create a culture of psychological safety where people can feel safe and comfortable to raise concerns and to just be themselves,
Even when you're the boss.
even when you're the boss.
Even when you're the boss.
Right. And the reason being is that when people are themselves, there's more spontaneity, there's more teamwork, there's a lot more trust, and also there's a lot more innovation. When people are
Yes.
spontaneous, innovation is spawned,
Hmm.
and people are more productive when they're happy.
That's so true. That's so true. And what better profession that's skilled at doing that than social workers, right? Meeting people where they are, listening, being non-judgmental, and recognizing that everyone has something important to contribute to the team.
Absolutely. The other thing that is kind of something that most people don't talk about, and that is not trying to put a square peg into a round hole.
Hmm.
What I've learned over the years is that strength-based leadership is so much more effective and efficient than to try to fit somebody into a job.
Hmm.
When I've sent people off to training and it's not something that they're wired for, they come back and they don't know how to apply it. But if I put somebody in for training that really builds on things that they're already excited about,
Yes.
things that they're already good at, they expand
Mm.
to greatness. So, the key takeaway is people love to do things that they're good at.
It sounds simple, but it's hard to execute. But play to people's strengths and not the deficits, and realize that we all have strengths and to accentuate that. So I'm going to ask you a question that I've also asked myself many, many times before, but not aloud. Imagine that you have the ability of an author to rewrite chapters in your professional life. If you can change something in your career, what would it be, and what would you have liked to have done differently?
Wow. When I was first appointed to my position as Chief of Plans and Programs at DIA, I was
Tell
kind
folks what DIA stands
oh,
for.
Defense Intelligence Agency.
Okay.
I was a hard charger, and there were some really high profile things that senior leadership wanted to get done in a very quick way. They were all congressionally directed actions, and they were all around agency compliance. So I rolled up my sleeves. I gave my staff things to do to help me to quickly get through that. I developed a lot of firsts and was rewarded with the highest Defense Intelligence Agency award that, as a new employee, it was unheard
Wow.
of to get that.
Wow.
However, I found that after that, which I thought was a huge win, I realized that my staff, what I didn't do was to take time to listen to them and engage them in what the work was going to be. And instead of me rolling up my sleeves and
Mhm.
solving all the problems, I was telling them what to do instead of listening to
Mhm.
what their ideas were. So I wasn't really reading the internal politics of
Mhm.
the organization or understanding the unwritten rules of that organization, which are so paramount to any job.
Yes.
What I would have done differently was to take my time to talk with them openly, then go forward as a
Wow.
team. Then they would have shared the triumph of that outcome with me instead of feeling like, well, you were just telling us what to do.
Right.
It was a hard lesson to learn, and it
Mm.
changed me as a leader from that point on. I realized that people were paramount,
Wow.
and
Wow.
that is the most important thing that I could have done was to listen to them and understand them and bring them forward as a collaborative team.
Wow. What a reflective moment, but it sounds like that was a lesson that you learned that was very difficult, but a lesson that you instituted moving forward. Wow.
I've always wanted to be a bridge to bring people
Mm.
together to get things done, and I felt the pressure to get things done quickly without doing what I would have normally inherently
Mhm.
done in my heart of hearts. That was a big mistake. And the other thing is that I didn't provide regular, clear communication, and I wasn't transparent with where we were
Mhm.
going. Those are things that I think really influence my leadership style too, was being transparent and communicating on a regular basis.
Wow, those are some great lessons. And I hear you saying it's important to go slow so that you can go fast and make sure to build those team relationships and to really listen. It's so understandable. Very often, when we go into a new role, we feel the pressure to act, to show some milestones. But what I hear you saying is go slow so you can go fast. Make sure you
Right.
bring everybody along. So, what was the leadership like in terms of you're a social worker in a space that's very often not occupied by social work in terms of leadership? What other disciplines were people coming from in terms of individuals who held the leadership roles that you occupied?
That's a very good question because what I found and what is commonly known is that people rise because they're usually technically competent, but not necessarily have the essential people skills to lead and motivate and inspire people to move forward in the agency's mission or that organization's mission and vision. They just rise to a point without any particular training in how to
Hmm.
manage people and how to inspire people. There are a lot of people who become leaders and maybe they're not as effective as they could be. And I think that's why social workers flourish so well in
Hmm.
leadership roles because they have those essential people skills. They have the interpersonal skills to engage people and they know how to solve problems. A lot of times when people are really good technically, either in IT or
Hmm.
finance or collections, analysis, when they became a leader, they don't necessarily know how to delegate that work and also to empower people to get work done and using their skill sets.
So it gets them to the upper levels in their particular domain or environment. But to get to a really effective leadership role, it takes on a different set of skill sets that you
Right,
represented with your social work training.
right. I was told that I made a great deputy because the vision and the technical aspects of getting out into the community were one thing. You're kind of like the mouthpiece of
Hmm.
that technical aspect, especially with Congress and so forth. But the people management end of it was usually at the deputy level, that
Hmm.
you're rolling up your sleeves and doing the operations and working with people to get things done for the organization so it melds with other directorates and the wheel is turning. I loved being in that position
Hmm.
because not only was I the mouthpiece and representing the boss every time that he or she was away, but I also had the staff knew I had their back. I was always representing what we can do and how we were going to do it.
So this is a fun question I get to ask. Imagine that you're at a dinner and you could invite three guests who inspired you. And these guests could be individuals who are either alive or passed on. Who would you invite and why?
That's funny. That's a really great question. I have to group these because, individuals are individuals, but I have really an amazing family. And my mom and dad, my husband, my brother and sister, our whole family is I'm kind of a closet comedian myself, but they've been my best mentors. They always had my back. They believed in me and always pushed me forward. They're just so genuine, so honest, and they've kept me grounded all these years. I just bask in unconditional love,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the way I was brought up, and so it's really an easy share when I meet other people to
Mm-hmm.
share those gifts. So that's one. The second one would be Dr. Harold Mosak, who was my lifelong mentor. He was really the best therapist I had ever come across in my career. And he was also an extraordinary human being.
Mm.
He found a way to connect with people and just make you feel like that you were part of the family.
Wow.
I mean, he just had this extended family
Mm-hmm.
across the world. I mean, he was just a world famous psychologist, but
Mm-hmm.
he had this uncanny way of just embracing every human being.
Wow.
And the reason why I'd want him at the table is because I still have so many more questions for him.
Mm-hmm.
This third person, I think you probably know him more than I do. I've had a lot of really great bosses that, are deep thinkers and very strategic and also had a tremendous compassion for people. This guy's name is Dexter Voisin. Do you know him?
Oh, come on, Susan. You're making me blush.
I
You're awfully kind.
Every time I hear you speak, I'm at the edge of my chair and listening to every word just because you have this vision and you have a way of just getting people to come together to do things, to get things done and in a very unprecedented territory. But you always also have the best interests of everyone in mind. That's just an amazing inspiration, and I get super motivated with
Well,
that by that
Susan,
synergy.
Susan, you are awfully, awfully kind to say that, and
I mean it
I
though.
take that with the deepest amount of appreciation and gratitude. And what you said earlier on is a reminder that none of us do this work alone. Behind every successful person, their loved ones, their family, their friends that are supporting us. So I've really enjoyed our time today, and I want to close by asking you this one question. Everything that you've known so far, all the experiences that you've had, share with us one thing you know for sure.
Can I share more than one thing?
Sure.
The first thing that comes to mind is people, relationships, and God are paramount.
Mm-hmm.
The world is run by those who show up.
Mm.
There is inherent good and value in every person, and it's easy and delightful to find it and nurture it.
Wow.
Kindness starts with each of us, and it's a powerful gift that spreads like wildfire. Lifelong learning keeps you relevant.
Mm.
And it's important to have friends who like to stay healthy because then you stay healthy too.
Yes.
And then you can translate your skills, experience, and strengths to fit almost any job. I'm living proof.
Wow, you are living proof. And Susan, I want to thank you so much for speaking from your heart to our heart. So thank you so much.
Thank you.